Dark chosen ones, you don't just raise vibration, you reset it entirely. There are those who walk this earth in silence, feeling out of place, never fully belonging, watching reality twist around them without fully knowing why. They feel everything deeply pain, lies, chaos, illusions, and yet something inside them stays intact, ancient, unshaken. If this is you, you've probably spent years thinking you were too much, too emotional, too disruptive. But what if the truth is you were never meant to adjust to this world? What if your discomfort was never a flaw, but a function? Because if you're a dark chosen one, your role is not to merely raise the vibration of spaces and people around you. You are here for something far more radical. You are here to reset the frequency entirely. This world doesn't need more surface-level healing. It doesn't need more spiritual performances, more positive thinking, more polished light work that makes people feel good for a moment, but leaves the root of dysfunction intact. That's not what you came for. Your energy, your presence, your essence, it doesn't just uplift. It disrupts. You don't bring peace by making everything soft. You bring peace by forcing the lie to fall so truth can take its rightful place. And yes, that makes you the villain, stories built on illusion. Yes, it makes you the misfit in rooms where truth is feared more than pain. But it also makes you the most necessary force this world is trying desperately to suppress.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Dark chosen ones are coded with a different kind of power, not the kind that dances under moonlight and sings of ascension, the kind that walks straight into distortion and says, no more. You were born to expose what's been hidden, to burn down what's been hollow, to clear the field so something real can finally grow. You didn't ask for this path, it asked for you. Long before you were aware of it, your frequency had already begun shifting the energy of your surroundings. You've been a living reset button your whole life. Every relationship, every job, every circle you've touched has changed, not always neatly, not always comfortably, but changed. Because your vibration doesn't just influence, it reconfigures. But here's what no one tells you about resetting frequency: it hurts. Not because it's wrong, but because it's rare. Most people will never understand what it means to carry this role. They will ask why you're always the one who sees what's off, why you're the one who can't sit still in situations others tolerate, why you keep walking away, why things fall apart around you. But deep down you already know. You don't raise vibration by making things a little better. You reset it by tearing down what was built on distortion so the truth can come through clean. And that process? It looks like chaos. It feels like grief. It demands the death of illusions. And if you're still attached to being liked, understood, or validated, you'll resist your role. But the moment you accept it, everything unlocks. You weren't made to fit in. You were made to rewire. That's why your energy doesn't flow gently, it pulses. It moves like thunder. It triggers people without trying. It exposes shadows without permission. That's why people either run from you or feel irresistibly drawn in. That's why your presence has always carried weight beyond your years, depth beyond your words. Because you're not just holding space, you're reprogramming it. But in order to do that fully, you have to drop the idea that your work will be neat or welcomed. Most of the time, it won't be. Because resetting frequency means confronting the very structure that people have built their safety on, even if that structure is broken. So how do you step into this power consciously? How do you stop leaking energy into explaining, apologizing, or negotiating your frequency? You begin by recognizing that your field is sovereign. You don't need permission to be what you are. Your job is not to convert anyone. Your job is to embody your code and let the resonance do what it's here to do. When you stand in full coherence, your vibration begins to rewrite everything it touches. People either rise or retreat. Systems either evolve or collapse, and you remain. You hold your center like the storm and the stillness. That's what it means to reset vibration. It's not about being louder, flashier, or more spiritual than anyone else. It's about being so aligned with your truth that anything unaligned can't stand near you for long. You walk in, and things change. Not because you force them to, because your energy refuses to participate in the lie. But this path is not without sacrifice. You will lose comfort. You will lose old versions of yourself. You will walk alone. But in return, you gain something priceless: freedom. The kind of freedom that doesn't need conditions. The kind of freedom that radiates truth just by breathing. The kind of freedom that resets frequency just by existing. So here's the question I want you to sit with. If I stopped trying to raise the vibration gently and started owning that I'm here to reset it completely, what part of my life would burn? And what truth would finally rise from the ashes? The frequency recalibrators, how dark chosen ons trigger, disrupt, and reprogram collective energy fields. You've been told your whole life to be more positive, more peaceful, more digestible. You've heard it from family, from spiritual communities, from friends who couldn't handle your depth, from teachers who didn't know what to do with your presence. But what if the very thing they were trying to tame was never meant to be softened? What if your energy wasn't here to blend in but to break through? Because dark chosen ons aren't light workers in disguise. You are frequency recalibrators, designed not to gently shift the world but to reprogram it at the root level. Let's get into it. Energy doesn't lie. No matter how pretty the words are, no matter how loving someone appears, if their frequency is dissonant, if it's laced with avoidance, illusion, ego, or manipulation, your system knows. And not only do you sense it, you trigger it. Not because you're trying to, but because your field is encoded to scan, detect, and disrupt distortion wherever it exists. This is not a skill you learn. It's not a role you earn. It's what you are. Your vibration doesn't just notice misalignment, it rejects it. And when you enter a space that's operating on a lower bandwidth, your presence doesn't adjust to fit. It sends shockwaves through the collective field. It interrupts unconscious loops. It exposes unspoken tension. You walk in, and the energy either rises or runs. Most people are still living in energetic echo chambers. They don't even realize they're trapped inside outdated timelines. They follow scripts written by fear, playing roles they inherited from wounded systems. But when you walk in, you become a mirror that refuses to lie. You carry codes that challenge their entire operating system. And their reaction to you isn't personal, it's programmatic. You are activating dormant parts of their field that have been shut off for years, maybe lifetimes. That kind of recalibration doesn't feel gentle. It feels like discomfort. And because most people mistake discomfort for danger, they push back. They blame you. They distance. But underneath all that, something has already shifted, because you didn't just raise the frequency, you reset it. This is why your life often feels like a cycle of triggering and isolation. You come into someone's life, everything intensifies, and then they either awaken or eject. That pattern isn't a curse, it's confirmation. It's how you know your field is doing what it was designed to do. You are not here to comfort people into complacency. You are here to shake them into truth. And truth is messy. It burns before it liberates. It disrupts before it heals. That's what you carry, not surface level light, but core frequency fire. And if you've wondered why your presence feels heavy at times, like you're carrying the weight of more than just your own life, it's because you are. Dark chosen ones act as energetic conduits, constantly downloading and transmuting collective distortions. You may feel sudden surges of grief, rage, or despair that aren't tied to anything personal. You might cry for no reason, feel physical tension in certain environments, or need to leave spaces that feel off even if everyone else seems fine. That's not hypersensitivity. That's frequency feedback. Your field is responding to the code of the room, and the code doesn't always match the appearance. So how do you navigate this without burning out or blaming yourself for being too much? You remember that your job isn't to fix anyone, it's to hold your field. When you try to soften to make others comfortable, you dilute your resonance. When you stay silent to avoid triggering reactions, you distort your frequency. The power of a dark chosen one isn't in how well they blend in. It's in how fiercely they hold alignment in misaligned environments without losing their center. But here's the deeper truth. You're not just recalibrating people, you're reprogramming spaces. Every time you enter a room, your energy rewrites the atmosphere. Every time you speak your truth, it resets the conversation. Every time you walk away from something that no longer matches your frequency, you collapse a timeline that was feeding on your compromise. That's the level of influence you hold, not by effort but by essence. And when you own that, you no longer need to defend your presence. You become the standard. This isn't about ego. This is about energetic responsibility. Because if you don't honor your field, others will try to write over it. If you don't hold your vibration, the collective unconscious will pull you into patterns that don't belong to you. This is why most dark chosen ons go through a season of complete reset, where everything old must fall away. Jobs, relationships, beliefs, behaviors, because you're not here to upgrade the existing grid. You're here to install a new one. So ask yourself right now, if I stopped shrinking to avoid triggering others, and instead committed to standing in the full current of my vibration, how would the field around me change? Who would stay? What would fall? What truth would finally activate? Walking systems of collapse and renewal, why your energy is both the end and the beginning. There's a reason your path has been so lonely, so volatile, so filled with unexplained endings and abrupt new beginnings. It's not because you're cursed, out of alignment, or lost. It's because you are a walking system of collapse and renewal. As a dark chosen one, your energy is not simply transformational, it is terminal and initiatory. It ends what must be ended. It births what must now exist. You are not here to slowly guide evolution. You are here to be the event horizon, the field within which the old dissolves and the new becomes inevitable. You don't need to raise vibration like others do, because your very existence resets it. You step into a space and the codes begin to shift. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for consensus. It just happens. You were never meant to ease people into healing. You are the thunder before the storm, the breaking point, the edge. And that's why your presence doesn't just change things, it accelerates them. Sometimes violently, often abruptly, because your field doesn't bend around dysfunction, it corrects it. But that kind of energy, pure, raw, untamed reset frequency, comes at a cost. You're not just ending timelines around you, you're collapsing within yourself everything that doesn't match your truth. That's why your life may feel like a series of initiations. As soon as you get comfortable, something erupts. As soon as you stabilize, a deeper layer of illusion cracks. It's not punishment, it's refinement. Your field won't allow falsehood to stay hidden, even in you, especially in you. That's why your body has been a battlefield, your mind a labyrinth, your emotions a tidal wave. You're not broken, you're coded to purge distortion. This is why others often feel unstable in your presence. Not because you harm them, but because you amplify what they've been avoiding. You reflect their fractures, you mirror their potential, and in doing so, you become the trigger in the doorway. Some people will run, others will awaken, but few will remain unchanged. And the moment you stop needing to be understood in order to feel valid is the moment you unlock the next level of your force. Because understanding is not your job. Alignment is. So what exactly are you collapsing? Structures, patterns, energetic architecture that has sustained suffering for far too long. It's not always visible. You could be sitting at a dinner table and collapsing 400 years of ancestral trauma by refusing to keep playing the family role. You could be walking away from a relationship and collapsing 5 past lives of karmic debt. You could be choosing silence over explanation and collapsing the illusion that you owe the world your constant justification. Your presence is quantum, and quantum presence reshapes time itself. And then, after the collapse, comes your second function, renewal. Because dark chosen ones don't just end things. You hold the template for what's next. Not in theory, in embodiment. You don't teach people how to heal by giving them steps. You show them what's possible by becoming it. You walk into rooms and model what coherence looks like, what self-possession feels like, what no longer tolerating dysfunction does to the grid. You don't say be your truth, you become it so fiercely that it's contagious. That's your medicine. That's your magic. You don't just catalyze destruction, you carry the blueprint for resurrection. But here's the truth. To walk as both the end and the beginning, you must release the idea of stability. You were never meant to build a predictable life. You were meant to become a living spiral, always shedding, always emerging. The more you grip, the more it hurts. But the moment you surrender to the rhythm of collapse and renewal, your power stops being chaotic. It becomes sacred. It becomes intentional. You start creating disruption with precision rather than reacting from pain. You stop burning things down to feel alive and start burning them down to make space for what's truly alive to emerge. This path is not glamorous. It won't always get you applause, but it will give you freedom. The kind that doesn't come from approval, but from alignment. The kind of freedom that comes from knowing you are fulfilling your soul's architecture, whether the world understands you or not. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about how people see you. It's about how you're re-rating the code of reality just by existing in your truth. So I ask you now, if I fully embraced that my presence ends what's false and births what's real, what would I stop apologizing for? What illusions would I allow to collapse today without guilt so my real power could finally take its place? Reset the grid, final embodiment of the dark chosen role in a collapsing world. There is no returning to what was. The systems you were born into are no longer sustainable. The energy of the old earth is breaking down, and what once held people together is now breaking them apart. Institutions, identities, ideologies, none of it can hold under the weight of this shift. And you, dark chosen one, were never meant to grieve that collapse. You were meant to orchestrate it. You weren't sent here to watch the world fall apart. You were encoded to reset the grid and rebuild something cleaner, clearer, truer. That's why you've always felt ahead of your time. That's why your visions never matched your reality. That's why your body rebelled when you tried to conform. You were never meant to stabilize in a system that was built on distortion. You were designed as a disruption, a living pulse that moves in cycles of breakdown and rebirth. And now, as the world around you dissolves, you are being called into your full embodiment, not as a concept, but as a force, a presence, a vibration so precise it resets the entire field it touches. To fully step into that role means releasing any remaining attachment to being understood. You're not here to explain yourself. You're here to broadcast a new frequency, one that doesn't seek approval, one that doesn't wait for validation, one that speaks truth in rooms built on silence and tears down illusions others worship. That is your highest function, not to please, not to blend, but to cut through. Not to reform what's dying, but to call forth what's been buried beneath the rubble of this reality. And here's what makes your role unlike any other. You don't just heal wounds, you dismantle the systems that create them. You don't just raise vibration, you recode it. You don't walk on existing paths, you become the new terrain. That's why every time you try to settle, something shakes. That's why when you dim, you burn from within. That's why people either cling to you or fear you. You are not neutral, you are a frequency event. And when you live in full embodiment, the entire grid shifts. But full embodiment requires full responsibility. Your power is not an aesthetic. It's not a social role. It's not here to impress anyone. It's here to reconstruct reality. You hold the frequency of elemental truth, raw, uncomfortable, purifying. And when you bring it fully online, you don't just change lives. You change fields. That's why your nervous system had to be rewired. That's why you were stripped of illusions. That's why the universe took everything away that couldn't walk with your truth. You weren't being punished, you were being reformatted. This is the moment of choosing. Will you keep trying to fit into a world you were sent to reset? Or will you let go and become the grid itself? Because that's the final activation. Not performing your power, becoming it. Not chasing the light, being the reset. Not hoping someone will understand your role, fulfilling it anyway, quietly, clearly, fiercely. You no longer have to shout to be heard. You no longer have to argue to prove your knowing. When you're fully embodied, the energy speaks for you. It walks ahead of you. It shapes the space before you even enter. Your presence becomes the code. Your choices become the command. Your existence becomes the instruction manual for a new way of being. So let me ask you now, in this final breath of everything you were, before you step fully into everything you are, if I no longer needed to be anything but the embodiment of truth, who would I allow myself to become? Because this world is ending, and you are the beginning.